think that film just the most beautiful thing. I'm honestly so excited to watch it again. Um, Here we are. We're here with Miss Lena as promised. Selena is a wolf dog. She's what we call a mid-content wolf dog. She's meaning that she's about half wolf and half, in her case, husky. And her white coat comes from her domestic dog side, but I always like to use her as an example with kids. I say, if Selena were a full wolf, where would she come from? Just to see if they can guess, and they're pretty smart, so it's not much of a challenging question. But she's an angel, and we rescued her about 1.5 years ago, and she was from Memphis. She somehow escaped wherever she was. We could tell by her teeth, show her teeth, look at those nubs, that she did a lot of fence biting when she was in her enclosure wherever she lived before. So she definitely wasn't happy and really wanted to get out. Well, what happened was she was living in a subdivision in the woods in Memphis, but she would come out and play as people were walking their dogs in the evening, and she'd want to play with them, and then she'd run back into the woods because she was very shy, but she had mange. She was up there a long time, several months. What are you talking about? Am I talking about you? Am I talking about you? Am I talking about you? What? And she was skinny and she was starving, and this man who was walking his dog finally said, we need to help her. So he contacted a local dog rescue, and it took them 3 days to catch her. And they started calling her Houdini because everything they set up, they kept setting up those live, little kennels with a guillotine door that would come down, and she'd get out of that. And, she just did not want to be caught. Well, finally, the director of the rescue brought her dog, little dog, and they found her hiding under someone's back porch. So her little dog went under the porch and somehow convinced her to come out, and they were able to leash her and get her into a crate and get her to the shelter where she ended up going. It took them a long time to get her healthy. They all fell madly in love with her, and they really wanted to keep her, but it just wasn't the right environment for a wolf dog because dog energy is completely different, and there's tons of barking, and her space was tiny, but she did have a run to play in, but it just wasn't the space for her. So they reached out to the rescue network, and we were really trying to find more female energy because we were really dominant with the males here. Lots of single males, lots of, posturing. And we said, we need some girls to come in and kind of calm these boys down. And so we had, Merlin had passed, and it was right before Boo passed. But I saw the video of her running and playing and read her story, and I thought, she would be any of our boys would love her. She's lighthearted. She likes other canines. She'll fit in beautifully. So our team drove all the way out to Memphis to pick her up and all the way back during COVID. Right? Wasn't it at the beginning of COVID? It was bizarre. Apparently it was like the apocalypse and nothing was open and everything was shut down and it was really hard to get food. It was a really bizarre experience for the team. And they came back, and the day they pulled up and she was in a crate in the back of the vehicle, and Boo came out. Now, Boo was a very dominant female. She didn't accept many females. She'd put them down. She didn't want anything to do with other females usually. But she came over to Selena and took a look at her and gave her a kiss through the cage. And Steve and I, we all kind of looked at each other and like, wow. And it was as if she knew she was perhaps getting ready to pass whatever it was. There was some special moment there that only those two will know. And so Selena, we started her out in Merlin's kennel where now the 3 amigos are living. And she was very shy. I'd go in with my phone and play soft music and lie there and pretend to nap, and I'd peek at her and she'd be watching me, but she wouldn't come near me. She wouldn't let me touch her. And it took, weeks of her beginning to trust me enough. And I noticed that she had actually, her back toe, her pinky toe on her back right leg was sticking straight out. And I thought, oh my gosh, did she break it? Maybe jumping up on her little doghouse or something. So we had to take her to the vet. I'd never leashed her. She'd barely let me touch her. So I had to very slowly and gently, move towards her and get her on a leash. And she allowed me to leash her. And so that was really the beginning of really building our friendship and our trust. And we got her to the vet, and she was beautiful. She was fine. She was a great patient, got her back. And then we decided it was time to start introducing the men. Let's go see her. Come on. She is so hilarious. It was like our own, it was like the apex version of the Bachelorette. we had her in the enclosure, and we started bringing each male into the backyard and pacing the fence and sniffing each other. She does not want to be on camera. You guys might notice that every time we turn the camera on, these guys want to. Are you going to give Caroline some snuggles? You can give her some snuggles. So the first one, was Loki. He wanted to meet her so badly, but he ended up being like the creepy guy at the gym that you want to just get away from. And she was definitely not into him. She's like, you're kind of handsome, but you're really creepy. So then we introduced her to Kona, and Kona was still not over Boo. And he was pretty, just giving her kind of the, snubbing her a bit. And she was like, well, you're kind of snobby. So then we tried Thor. Well, some of you might know that Thor is quite popular, and he has a bevy of human women who fawn all over him, and that's enough for him. So he was like, I got enough females in my life. And so they just became friends. Then we introduced Sarge, and Sarge is like Walter Matthau. He's just kind of grumpy old man, and he's just looking at her like, get out of my way. And he goes to see me like, you got a treat? He had no interest whatsoever, and she was just like, the look on her face was just like, oh God. And then we brought in Riggs. And Riggs, in typical Riggs fashion, looked at her and jumped behind Steve and literally like peeked out behind her like, it's a girl. Oh my God, it's a girl. And that's when the hearts went wah, wah, out of her eyes. And we went, oh my gosh, she's in love with nerdy Riggs. And and they literally fell madly in love almost off the bat. And she's kind of like the tough girl on the playground who's dating the kind of nerdy kid. She's really, really protective of him. And if any of the other boys are even slightly being a little rough, playing too rough, whatever it may be with Riggs, she jumps in and gets in the middle and kind of like, get away from my man. She's very protective of him, and it's really sweet, to the point where now when we take them up to play, Riggs waits, because we have an order that we have to bring them up in. Riggs will wait, and as she comes in, he grabs her by the scruff and holds her until she calms down, because she comes in like just charging, like, get away from my man. He's like, I got this. It's cool. It's all right. Calm down. And it's fascinating to watch. But, we've got cameras in the house where we can watch everything. And at night, when I think nobody's watching, they snuggle, they make out. It's really, really cute. So I love it when we find a perfect match and a match is made. So we've got Selena and Riggs, who are madly in love, and then we also have Neo and Rogue, who are madly in love. Sarge doesn't want anybody, and he's happy being a bachelor. Kona, he's like, I had my boo, we're done here. And we have some young males. They'll be ready for girlfriends soon, but I just, like a good mother, I'm like, no, they're gonna stay babies forever. But just again, it's more about the shyness, and these guys were all bred in captivity to be exotic pets, and so it's not about them being aggressive or anything. And if they are aggressive, again, it's coming out of fear. So the most important thing is always to remember, when we're working with these guys, to be patient and loving, and to let them set the pace. And we have some pretty happy puppies. So with that, I think we have a little bit of time for a few questions before we jump into our next really exciting presentation, which I can't wait to watch.
So you said that Selena lives with Riggs.
Uh-huh.
And then we're going to ask about her toe. But so she lives with Riggs, and that's kind of like her boyfriend, right? But they are not breeding? Are they spayed and neutered?
So guys, wolves are incredibly, if you watched the film just now, if you listened to the talk earlier about, you've got these wolves playing with the dog. So, you got to start to go, they're strategists. They're playing with the dog to distract him so that they can go and get the sheep. They're uber smart. And so, yeah, they also are completely emotionally developed, just like we are, and they love companionship. Yes, they are all spayed and neutered. We are required by law to spay and neuter all of our animals, and in order for us to have our fish and wildlife license as well as our USDA license. But that doesn't mean they don't still want that connection and that, relationship with someone, a companion of the opposite sex.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So we can talk about the toe. The toe, actually, after having it examined by several specialists and x-rayed, and turned out, at first they thought it was an old injury. It was, and it couldn't be repaired. The bone was actually starting to deteriorate, and she was in some pain. And they said it's not going to improve. It's only going to get worse. And so the recommendation was to have it amputated, which we did. You would think, I'm like, oh, it's just a little toe. You just go snip, stitch, stitch. We're good to go. No, it was epic. We ended up having to keep her isolated inside in our headquarters, our volunteer headquarters down on the hill, and we had to sleep. Someone had to be with her 24/7 because the minute somebody wasn't there, she was like wanting to gnaw on it, and we couldn't keep a cone on her because she just kept rubbing against the fence and ripping it off. So it was almost 2 months that it took for her to completely heal, and we were so relieved when she did.
Do you think she would let us see it?
I think it's the other one. She probably doesn't want to be messed about, but you can't really tell. That's the cool thing. And now she's running in the hills and she's not limping, and she still favors the other foot sometimes, but she's really doing it. It was really, really worth it. So.
But it was a lot of work. I mean, you and Steve had to change her bandages almost every day. She had to be in this tiny little isolation kennel. You could only take her out to go pee on these short little walks so that she could heal. It was this very intensive process, and you guys kind of got like a crash course in veterinary medicine, right?
Oh my God. And we're taking pictures and sending it to our ranch vet almost every day, so we became experts, especially leg wrapper. Yeah, and it was different kinds of bandaging, and we had to make sure it wasn't too tight, but tight enough, and then we had to tape it, and then we had to do this and that. We had to know what we were looking for to make sure it was healing in a healthy fashion, and putting ointment on it, and and then just that bed down there killed my back. I'm not gonna lie. So, and we didn't sleep in the same bed for like 2 months. That was kind of a bummer as well. But all in all, we're glad we did it.
And where is her boyfriend? Where's Riggs?
Her boyfriend can't be in here while we're talking about her because he is such a ham, as you know. Attention all the time, and he would be jumping all over me like he was yesterday, and in here and doing his little wiggle, and if she comes over for a snuggle, he literally butts her out of the way until she finally tells him off. He is just a lot, and she's pretty much the only one who can really tolerate him for any length of time. So we decided to let him go up and play with his friends in the turnout while we're down here spending some quiet time with Selena.
But his energy probably helped her come out of her shell, right?
I think so. Yeah. I think she's got the perfect temperament for him, and he does for her as well, which is why they make such a good match.
If people want to know more about Selena, where can they find her information?
Oh, and I'm not going to lie. We've had so much on our plates this year that our website is a little out of date. So the bios of the pack are on there, and how you can follow her story. You can also go to social media and follow her there. We do stories on all of these guys all the time. They're hilarious, and we love sharing that. There's a lot of, I'm preaching to the choir here, but there's a lot of sadness in this world of rescue and advocacy. And so we do try to bring a little smile, through sharing funny moments with our pack members. So, well,
Rhonda Dern says, I love that your priorities have been wolves, not websites. So.
Thanks, Rhonda. You always know what to say. I love you.
I think that's totally accurate. Well, Paula, yes, and Selena, it's been lovely, you guys. I think we're